The Importance of a Physician Assistant Expert Witness with Stuart Reich, episode 328. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10x effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we have an interesting guest. We haven't had somebody like this on the show before, and that is somebody who can be an expert witness, maybe. I mean, I will dive into it, so I'm not using the wrong terminology or saying the wrong thing, but I think that this will definitely be interesting for those of you who are in PI, med-mal, anything like that. Would definitely be something that is relevant to you. And for those of you who perhaps that specifically is not relevant, I would stay tuned because you never know what might come up in our conversation. And I don't know. I mean, I'm doing this intro before we do the recording. So I don't know what's going to come up, but there's bound to be something exciting that comes up in every interview. So you want to make sure to tune in and listen in. And hear what's going on. So our guest today is Stuart Reich. Stuart Reich is a board-certified physician assistant, and he does malpractice review for physician assistants, both defense and plaintiff cases. So I'm excited to jump into that with him. Before I do that, I want to take a moment to just let you know that my coaches are standing by, waiting for you. You've probably heard it on previous episodes, but if this is your first one, just know that we offer a free coaching session. In that free coaching session, we will help you figure out what might be standing in your way, stopping you from getting the result that you want from your law firm. And if you're interested in truly growing your law firm in the fastest way possible to achieve the results that you want as quickly as possible, then you definitely want to start off with a free coaching call with one of our coaches where they will help you really get clear on what are the steps that you need to take to go further. Now, to make sure that you are not blindsided by this, at the end, if you're a good fit, they may offer you a spot in our coaching program, which is our elite lawyer coaching program, where we can help you double your revenue and 10x your profit in 12 months. So if that's something that you are interested in doing, definitely grab a free coaching session with one of our coaches. profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And Stuart, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. And I do appreciate you taking the time to be here on the podcast. Everybody is busy individuals, yourself included, and an hour, which is what we ask you to block out, is a lot of time. And I really appreciate you spending it with me today. Now, before we get started, what I like to do with my guests is our listeners never heard of you. They want to know who is the Stuart guy that Moshe is bringing on the show. So take a few minutes to tell me a little bit about yourself, any details you want, maybe the journey that of you becoming a physician assistant, or how you became the physician assistant who specifically helps with malpractice cases and things like that. But give us a little bit of backstory so that we know who you are.
Okay. I'm a board certified physician assistant. I've been a physician assistant since 2000. I've been a PA since 1982, and I've done a lot of PA work in medicine, and surgery. And in approximately 2001, I have my own surgical first assistant practice. So I go to different hospitals and I assist on different surgeries, anything from C-sections to total joints and so on. Approximately 10 to 12 years ago, I got a call from an attorney who asked me if I would review a case. And I said, sure, this was something new for me and so on. So sent me the material and I looked at it, and this was a plaintiff case. And it turns out there was some type of malpractice that the physician assistant did. And I didn't have to go to court for it, but I had to do a deposition, and which they came to me, and then that was it. After that, it was coming in dribs and drabs, and I asked them, how did they find me and so on. They said, well, we looked up physician assistant and malpractice review, and my name came up. So I said, oh, okay. So, I've been getting different cases from all over the country. And right now I have a couple of cases in New Jersey, and which I'm waiting. I started reviewing. And then I said to myself, well, gee, this sounds interesting. Let me try to expand on this and maybe get more cases. So I have a website, and all of a sudden people are starting to notice me. And that's how I got to this point now.
It's very interesting because you specifically are reviewing malpractice cases where a physician assistant is involved, right? You're specifically reviewing PA cases, right? If I understand correctly.
Correct. But also I can get cases just to look at, just to review whether it's a nurse or an MD or something. I can't go to court for it, but I can give them an insight if there is malpractice or there isn't malpractice. I've had a number of defense cases which the PA did absolutely nothing wrong, and which it turns out that they were dropped from the cases. So, the attorneys were very happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to dive into this PA dynamic. Wouldn't a doctor be a better person to review these cases and analyze whether the PA did something wrong or didn't do something wrong? Why are you better suited than a doctor specifically for these PA cases that are coming your way?
Well, that's it. It's a PA to PA review and so on. And usually, a lot of times I find that the doctor sometimes would throw the PA under the bus as they go and so on. That, but in all the cases that I reviewed, the PA did nothing wrong, and that they were dropped from the case, but the case still went on with the MD.
Got it. So do you think that if an MD was and now, are you an expert witness? Is that what they're calling it?
I'm an expert witness for the physician assistant.
Right. So is it not acceptable, or is it not common for an MD to be an expert witness for a physician assistant? because there's a lot of attorneys out there who are doing this kind of stuff, med mal, personal injury, those kinds of cases where they need expert witnesses, and they all have their repertoire of expert witnesses, right? They're loaded with doctors who are expert witnesses. So I'm trying to understand whether doctors are appropriate or inappropriate for this. Like, is there an advantage for the expert witness for a PA case, whether plaintiff or defense, whether that the expert witness is indeed a PA as well?
Well, that's it. It would be, let's say, doctor to doctor, nurse to nurse, and a PA to a PA.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of attorneys look for, in both plaintiff and defense cases.
Now, you can do this nationwide, or are you geographically limited? How does that work?
No, I've done doing it nationwide, but I do have a medical license in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida. Mm-hmm. But I get calls from Arizona, I get calls from Nevada, and I get calls, all over the country.
Now, you mentioned at the beginning with your first one that you didn't have to go to court. You just had to do a deposition. You then mentioned a little bit later, something about not going to court. Do you specifically not go to court ever? Like, is it only, does that where your services stop? Or do you end up in court as well?
I can go to court and so on. I've done a number of depositions, both plaintiff and both defense. But right now, in all the years I've been doing it, I have not gone to court. Mm-hmm. They've either settled or just it never went to trial.
Right.
For the PA.
Right. So you don't know, like, you don't know what the others, the expert witness on the other side is, how they're rebutting what you're saying or replying to what you're saying, right? You just do your piece and you're done. Correct.
I had a case in Connecticut where unfortunately the patient passed away. Mm-hmm. And the family was suing the hospital and, the PA and so on. So this was a plaintiff case and so on. And I reviewed the case and I wrote what I thought was the proper plaintiff attorney, what they needed. And it turned out that the plaintiff, the family, they settled for over $1 million case.
Mm-hmm. So that's an example of a positive outcome for your expert testimony. Correct. Assisted. Correct. And them getting that settlement that they were looking for.
Correct.
And I'm sure the attorneys were pretty pleased as well.
Yes, they were. But on the, like I said, on the other side, I've gotten, if a PA did something wrong, I'll tell them. If the PA didn't do anything wrong, I'm going to tell the attorney also.
Right. You're not picking sides. You're just providing. You can be an expert witness and testify to the pieces that you want to testify to, right? Like if you're on the defense side and, you tell me how this works. If there are, there are pieces that paint a good picture and there are pieces that paint a bad picture, right? And if you testify to the pieces that paint a good picture, then you can make somebody look really good. And if there are pieces, so depending on which side of the aisle you're on, you can pick and choose which things you want to harp on, right?
I run it down, an even keel. Like I said, if somebody did something wrong, I'm going to tell you. If on the plaintiff side, if the PA didn't do anything wrong, I'm going to tell you that, and so on. So that way, the PA will either be dropped or they'll be out of the case.
Now, what level is considered something wrong, right? I mean, like, clearly, if like a PA administered a medication to somebody who's allergic to that med, right, they did something wrong. But if they left somebody without checking on them for 2 hours, is that what are the types of things that you're finding that the PAs are doing wrong, or that they're being accused of that they're really not doing wrong?
Well, it's a matter of what the standard of care is in the area that you're working, either geographically or the hospital and so on. It's what the standard of care is in that location.
So is that something that you, before you even start, you're being provided with like the handbook or the standard of care handbook for that for that location or that hospital?
It's usually, the standard of care is what the community holds and so on. So, not that you have a booklet or anything like that, but you review the case, the hospital records, the doctor's records, the PA's records, and so on. You review the depositions on both sides, the plaintiff and the defense, and so on, and then you form an opinion, and that's what you go with when you're giving either what they call an affidavit of merit, or sometimes the attorneys will speak to you and not have you write anything down, because if you write something down, that's discoverable. So it's just like in any other type of review and so on, how you're going to go about doing it, and up to the state that this is coming from, and so on.
Got it. Okay, so now I want to ask you some questions about how you navigate all of this. So you're still operating, you're still working in your capacity of assisting surgeons and doctors and various procedures, and then at the same time you're out there as an expert witness. How do you find navigating the two, and is there any conflict between them?
Well, usually if it's a doctor I know, or a PA I know, or the hospital itself and so on, then I decline to take the case. I just review the case, review the data, and give my explanation.
Okay, and where does Stuart go from here? Like, is your plan to get to 100% expert witness and stop practicing?
No. I love what I do. I love to practice. I also love to do this review and so on. So I would, like 50-50. Sometimes, I have to get up 2 o'clock in the morning to do a C-section and so on. But I still love that.
Right.
And then, sometimes like, I wouldn't get a case for like a month and a half, 2 months and so on. But, if I can get more, it would make a nice balance,
Right.
for work and home life.
Now, what is the turnaround time with these, when you assuming you get all the information you need on the first go, how long does it take you to go through this and to provide that expert testimony?
Well, all attorneys are different. It depends. First, they have to get me a notice of intent. So I have to read all that. Then there's other things that, the attorneys take time to send me and so on, the hospital records and so on. Myself, I like to read the hard copy. When it comes to reading it online and so on, it like kills my eyes and so on. But I like to, have it sent to me. Usually they FedEx it and so on. And I read and it can take a few hours and so on, but at least I have an idea of what's going on and so on, and then I can give my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this ever go beyond like the documentation? Like, somebody documented I did X, Y, and Z, but then there's other data that shows that maybe they did something different. Like the Pyxis system has different medication taken out than what they wrote that they gave. And is it usually just from the doctor's or the PA's notes that you're able to determine whether something was done?
Well, it's the PA's notes, it's the nurse's notes, it's the MD's notes, it's all that together. Everything is usually sent to me. Sometimes I can get a book of stuff to review and so on. And I read everything. And this way I can, I can make an informed reason of yes, no, or what else, or something else.
Now, how do you charge for your services? Is it by the hour or is it by the case, or how do you determine if it's by the case? How do you determine the size of the case? Because clearly some will take you longer than others.
Correct. No, I'm usually by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. With the defense cases, they're usually covered by insurance. So sometimes, I'll ask for money up front, but sometimes they'll say, we'll take you, but they really don't want to pay me anything up front, which fortunately it's worked out and so on, and they've paid on time and so on. So I don't have to go after insurance companies or attorneys that owe me money, because they pay it within a reasonable amount of time.
Now, what's the dynamic happening within the law firm if it's the attorney that's hiring you? Are they fronting the expense on behalf of the client, or is
Correct.
it coming out of their portion of the proceeds of the eventual payout of the case? What's the dynamic from the law firm side? And it might be a silly question I'm asking, I don't know.
No, it's not silly. For the defense cases, like I said, a lot of them go through the insurance company.
So it's the malpractice insurance. That's
malpractice insurance company for the PA that's being sued. The plaintiff's attorney, they pay me out, for the work I do. They send me a check.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to wait for my money. The plaintiff's attorneys that I've dealt with really above board, and they take care of me. I have no complaints with that.
Good. That's awesome. So when did you start doing this again?
It's about 10 years ago,
Wow.
10, 11 years ago, and so on. And I would get one case, then another case, then, um, 1, 2, 3 months go by, and then I would get another case, and so on. So about 2, 3 years ago, I said, maybe I should do, if I can, do more. And I had someone help me with a website.
Mm-hmm.
And besides, malpractice review, I also, there was an attorney from Maryland who does nursing homes,
Mm-hmm.
what they call F-tags, whether these long-term healthcare facilities, nursing homes, if there was a problem. So an attorney called me, said, would you review this claim against a nursing home? So I said, sure. He said to me, sometimes, a lot of nurse practitioners do that sort of thing, but sometimes I'd like a different view on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out that I started reviewing the case, and he paid me, but then all of a sudden they settled out of court. So I didn't do it so long, but what I did, I got paid for it, and I was very happy.
Right. So did you ever discover how you ended up coming up with the initial Google search? That the first doctor who found you looked for physician assistant malpractice review. Do you know why your name popped up? Did you ever figure that out?
I don't know to this day. I still don't know. Now, now I'm on Google. I'm on, some of the other things. There are other companies like Search and other type of companies that, if you pay a fee, then your name gets on, and if sometimes you get a case, sometimes you don't.
Right.
So I did it for a year on Search, and I got one case. That was it, but at least it paid for it, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, this whole thing is really it's really neat. Neat how it fell into your lap. That you enjoy it, and that you're able to just lean into it a little bit and really start to move the needle on it. And then stuff like this podcast interview, right? Like this is going to go up. We have our listeners, but it's also going to create a blog post. It's going to have links to your website. You're going to be mentioned, and that might come up in search as well. So, really, really smart steps that you're taking to try to fill your plate with that 50% of this kind of work.
Well, you're amazing because, we met through a different organization and so on. And then all of a sudden we what's it called? We became friends, and, all of a sudden I'm on your podcast.
Yeah. So there's a local networking group that I was involved in getting off the ground. And it's just here in Rockland County, and Stuart, I don't know how you found our group, but Stuart came to our meetings and we met there. And I didn't even think of having you on the show. Like I didn't make the connection until you reached out and said, hey, do you happen to know any attorneys who might need our service? And I said, I don't know if I know any attorneys who might need your service, but why don't we put you on the podcast and talk about it? And if any of our listeners need it, then they'll know about you. So really cool way that came about, and we get to bring you a guest that you probably wouldn't have an opportunity to hear otherwise. So good stuff.
No, I would say thank you. You're the one that's really been helping me.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up in just a moment, Stuart. this might be aimed more at the attorneys listening that it's relevant for. But is there any the way I typically like to end the episode is asking if there's any piece of advice that you want to share with our listeners, but in this case, based on the topic, is there, maybe not piece of advice, but is there any tips or hints that you want to leave our listeners with that can help them when they are looking for you?
Well, if the attorneys do have a case and they want me to review, whether it's a PA, MD, nurse, or whatever, I'd be more than happy to review it and see if there is a case or there isn't a case, and then we could take it from there.
Got it. Okay, so let our listeners know how they can follow up with you, get in touch with you. Like if this is something they need, what's the next steps for them to take those steps with you?
Well, I do have a website. It's Stuart Reich, PAconsulting.com. And my number is 845-548-5459. And my email address for cases is cases@stuartreichpaconsulting.com.
Great. So we're going to link all that up in the show notes. You'll be able to get the email address, the website, the phone number. So if you're, out for a jog, in the shower, driving the car right now, you don't have to stop and write it down. Just go to profitwithlaw.com, visit the show notes page for this episode, or look in your podcast player below the description. There should be a resources section. Everything that Stuart just shared will be linked up there for you to be able to click on and take the next step in getting in touch with him. And interestingly, he's offering to be a pre-witness of a witness, right? Like, somebody, you're just evaluating whether a case has merit and whether you should actually take it on or not. That would be a good time, I think, to get Stuart involved, and probably save yourself a lot of expense in a case that maybe you don't have a chance of winning, or at least, there you think that there seems to be something that was done wrong, but then he looks at it and says, well, not really, because that's the standard of care. It had a poor outcome, but you're probably not going to be able to win this one. So that's, just some food for thought. You might have a doctor you're doing that with now. Maybe, maybe Stuart would be an easier solution to navigating that. So Stuart, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you giving a really cool story. I enjoyed talking about it and the topic. Really interesting topic. Folks, if this is your first time listening to the podcast and you enjoyed what you heard here today, then you definitely want to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so you get notified every time we release a new episode. And then you also can go back and binge on the over 300 episodes already recorded that are there in the library. And if you want to take the next step in your law firm growth, definitely want to book a free coaching call with one of our coaches who can help you unlock the key to that growth. They can help you figure out what might be holding you back, keeping you stuck, and slowing you down from achieving the goals that you want in your business. And you can book that free coaching call by going to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. Again, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And then stay tuned. We'll have another great guest interview for you here next week. Take care. Enjoy. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.